Everywhere I look, everyone seems to be focusing on what's wrong with the world.
Two shooters were initially believed involved in the mass shooting.
ISIS has now claimed responsibility for today's deadly terror attack.
Initially reported as a 7.9 quake, it was upgraded.
The worst outbreak of the deadly Ebola virus. Police believe the attack may have been a hate crime.
On this podcast, we choose to focus on the good.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Many times when it appears that something is happening to you, it is always, always happening for you.
Because I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Every single one of us makes a difference every single day.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Focus on the Good podcast. This is your host. I'm Jake Ballentine. I'm so excited that you are here with me today and ready for your weekly dose of positivity. Today on the podcast, this is a really great interview. You're going to love it. I have Riley Dayne. He is the producer and the director of the brand new movie, the brand new hit film, The Abundance Factor. This movie is really awesome. It talks about what it means to live an abundant life. He goes and he talks to industry experts in the personal development world, experts, giants in that world like Lewis Howes, Bob Proctor, Stephenson, Harv Eker, and many more. He talks to them about what it means to have an abundant life and how you can reach that abundant life. If you're into movies that have a positive message that will help you be more successful and will help you to make more of a difference in the world, which I assume all of you are into since you're listening to this show right now, and that's what this podcast is all about, then you are going to love this movie. So after you listen to this interview, go over to theabundancefactormovie.com. When you go to theabundancefactormovie.com, you can actually watch the movie for free for a limited time. Riley has made this available to anyone who wants to see it. For a limited time, you can go and watch this movie for free. I've watched it twice now, and I really, really loved it, and it was an honor for me to get to sit down and talk with Riley for a little bit about his experience with making this movie, his experience with making it, what he learned from it, what he gained from it, and a year of his life where he spent talking to people who not only live an abundant life, but people who are experts in the personal development and self-help world. So you're going to love this interview. I know that. And so I was just kind of thinking a little bit, what does it mean to have an abundant life? Why would we want to have more abundance in our life? And I think it all comes down to this. Just like the theme of this show, just like I said on last podcast, I think that anyone can have an abundant life, and it all starts, now there's a lot more that comes after this, but it all starts with focusing on what you have, focusing on the positive, focusing on the good, focusing on what you have to be grateful for. I think that anyone can live an abundant life right now. I think abundance is not necessarily about having everything that you want, though I do think that gaining things is a part of that. But being abundant and living an abundant life is about where we're at right now, having that attitude that we are grateful for everything that we have. Because I don't remember what podcast I was listening to, and they were talking about this whole idea of the 1% versus the 99%. Actually, I do remember. It was on the brand new Tony Robbins podcast. He was talking about that. No. It was actually on Lewis Howes' School of Greatness. He was interviewing Tony Robbins. That's where I heard it. Now I remember. You can tell now I don't script these intros. I'm really just talking to you. And so in that interview, they were talking about this idea and this concept of the 99% versus the 1%. And so many people will be the 99%, and they'll look up at the 1%, and they'll say whatever they say about that 1%. But what Tony Robbins pointed out is, if you live in America, you are a part of the 1% of the entire world. That's crazy. So just if you're the most poor person in the country, you are a part of the 1% of the world. That's really incredible when we think about how blessed we are, how abundant our lives are. So what I'm saying is, let's have more gratitude. Let's be more grateful. Let's see the things that we have that are good and be grateful for those. Have an attitude of gratitude. And I promise you, as you do that, those things will grow. But more importantly than that, you will feel that abundance in your life right now, because you could be a billionaire and not be grateful, and you would not feel abundant. You would not feel that sense of happiness and joy that comes from living with an attitude of gratitude. So let's jump right into this interview with Riley Dayne, the producer, director, and star of the brand new hit documentary film, The Abundance Factor. All right, I'm here with Riley Dayne, the producer and director of the new movie, The Abundance Factor. Riley, how are you doing today?
Very good, man. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's an honor to have you as a part of the podcast. This movie really made a big difference to me. I saw it. I don't even know how I discovered it, but when I saw the post about it, I immediately wanted to go and watch it, and it really had a great impact on me. So thank you for making this film.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you got to check it out, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
Thank you. So for those who don't know about the movie, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so to sum the plot up in as little time as possible.
Yeah, of course. It's a tough question.
Yeah. Basically, I grew up in a small farming town in British Columbia, Canada. And my teacher asked me what I wanted to do when I graduated. And I sat there and I thought about it, and I said I wanted to travel, I wanted to make movies, and I wanted to help change the world. And I was expecting her to say, like, okay, good for you, go and do that. But instead, my response was met with silence, and after a pause, she started to laugh. And she laughed at me and she said, Riley, whatever you do, don't do that. I want you to go to school, get a normal job. When you retire, then worry about doing all that silly stuff like traveling and trying to make movies. And so at first I kind of followed her advice. She was in a position of authority. So although my hopes were dashed a little, I was like, all right, if that's what I'm supposed to do, then maybe that's what I should do. So I kind of took the path more traveled by. And then I went into my early 20s. I was doing consulting, and it was okay, but it wasn't the life that I'd dreamed of. And then something very, very strange happened. And when I was sleeping, I ended up sleepwalking and falling over the edge of a second-story balcony and waking up in the emergency room. And it was
Crazy.
very, very terrifying, because it's one of those moments where, at least if you're mountain biking or if you're skydiving, if you're doing something dangerous, then you're opening yourself up for the chance of risk. I was just trying to go to bed, and yet I had the chance for everything to be taken away from me. And in that moment, it really, really shook me up. And I went back to that conversation I had with my teacher, and I knew in my heart that's what I always wanted to do. And now I knew that it was now or never to take action on that dream, because you could just go to sleep and not wake up the next day. So if I'm going to do something, I better do it right now. So I packed up a film crew. We hit the road, traveled to 7 different countries, talked to experts all over the world about how we can all chase our dreams, how we can find happiness, how we can find success. And we filmed the entire journey, and it came together as a movie called The Abundance Factor.
Yeah, that was a really great recap of the movie, and amazing movie, absolutely amazing movie. Question about the sleepwalking thing: is that something that still happens for you?
Luckily, it has not happened since. However, I will say every time I stay in a high-rise building or go to a hotel, I am sure to lock all the balcony doors. Because I've joked that I should put a little bell on my ankle so that if I wake up in the night, somebody can hear me and stop me from doing something crazy.
Oh my goodness! And like, just on a personal note, I have a very storied history of sleepwalking, but I've never done something like that. I once put a pillow in the oven. Luckily, I didn't turn it on, but never something like that. So your sleepwalking story certainly trumps all of mine, and that is just crazy. I love that story that you talked about your teacher. And when she said that to you, what did it, I mean, did it crush your dreams? Did it make you feel like, oh, maybe I can't do anything, or I'm not important? Kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you just said there. In that moment, like, because when we're kids, we have all these ideas, we have all these dreams, we have all these ambitions, and the world is wide open to us because we've never felt the sting of failure. So you're always ready to take action. But then to have someone in a position of authority, and she was a personal planning teacher, so she's someone who's supposed to help me plan my career outside of high school, to have someone like that say, that's not a realistic idea, that's not a good idea, that's not how the world works, it dashes your hopes, it crushes your dreams. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to have something that shook me out of believing in her and to give me a second chance to follow those dreams. But I think a lot of people, they just are told what I was told. They're told to just keep your head down, do what everyone else does, get the normal job, buy the house with the white picket fence, and everything will be fine. And there's nothing that shakes them out of that. And so a lot of people end up going their entire lives, waiting until they're retired to live their lives. And that's what I hope this movie helps to show people, is that you don't have to wait until you're retired to travel and to do all those exciting things. Do it now. Do it while you can. Or if you are retired, then take action immediately. Do whatever you can to live your dreams, and don't let those people tell you that you can't do things.
I love that. I love that. So cool. Why do you think that people say things like that?
You know, at first, it's a good question. At first, I was always angry at that teacher, and I thought that she had somehow did it to hurt me or stop me or prevent me from living my dreams. Growing up, I've since come to learn that I'm sure she did it out of a place of good. She wasn't telling me to hurt me. She was telling me not to do those things because she was trying to protect me. She thought that it was unattainable, and if I went for it, I wouldn't be able to do it. And so you have to think, why would somebody think something's unattainable? Well, I'll guess that either she went for something in her life and it didn't quite work out, or when she was young, she maybe had a dream and someone told her that's not the way it is, and she's passing on that information. She's passing on that societal story that we tell ourselves. And so she was just the messenger of society's programming. And if anything, I feel like she was trying to help me from getting hurt, not realizing that it was doing the opposite. So I think that's why people tell people not to chase their dreams. Sometimes it's maybe to hurt them, but I think more often than not, they're doing what they think is best and they're giving the best advice they know. The problem is that most of our advice isn't very good.
Yeah. I think that's a really good perspective, though, because so many of us walk around bitter about things that happened to us in our past. And I agree with you. I think most people, I would say 99.9% of people, are doing the very best they can with what they know. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great perspective that you have. What would you say to someone who, like, what's your advice for someone who hears that kind of messaging? What should they go and do?
Well, if you have a dream and if you want to accomplish something in life, you just have to come to terms with the reality that there are going to be people in your life that are not going to see your vision and they're not going to be supportive. And sometimes that's your family member, sometimes it could be your girlfriend or your boyfriend, or sometimes it could be an authority figure like a teacher. And you have to realize that those adversities are always going to be there. And you only have two choices. One, you can listen, you can take the road more traveled by and you can stay exactly where you are. Or you can take the road less traveled by, you can take a risk in your life, and you can hopefully end up somewhere so much better and chase those dreams and have those things. So I would say, if you're in that spot right now where you have a dream, you have a goal, but you're facing some sort of feedback that's negative or people are telling you not to do it, you have to just push that aside, realize where they're coming from is a place that they're trying to help you, but they're not really being all that helpful, and just take action on your dreams and never, ever let anyone dissuade you from doing what you really want to do in this life.
I love that. I love your passion, too. It's very exciting. It's contagious. I really like it.
Thank you, man.
Now, through this movie, I mean, you had some really heavy hitters in the personal development world. People like Bob Proctor, Stephenson, Harv Eker. And you asked the same question to all of them. What does abundance mean to you? So my question is the same to you. What does abundance mean to you?
That's an exceptionally good question. The funny thing was, when we made the film, I was expecting to get a similar response from all 21 people in the movie. I thought they would all have roughly the same definition of abundance. Yet the funny thing was that we asked 21 people and we got 21 totally different responses.
Interesting.
So it's so funny to see how different people view things so completely different than other people. With that said, for me, abundance is mostly about what you're able to do with your time. Because I think time is the most valuable commodity we have in this world. You know, most of the time we think that money is our best currency, but I think that time is our best currency because time expires, and it almost expired very quickly for me. Hopefully I have a very long life. But nonetheless, abundance for me is being able to do whatever you want and make the most of the time that you have available. So I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to live my dreams. I want to make movies. I want to be able to do podcasts like this because this is the stuff I live for. This is the stuff I love. Mm-hmm. And the only way I can do this stuff is the more time I have, the more I can do of it. So abundance for me means having time freedom, being able to choose what you do every day when you wake up and make the best of every single day.
I love that. What a great definition of abundance. I completely agree with you. Now, making a movie is a very long process. I think a lot of people probably think like, oh, it's a, hour and a half. Like, how long could it take you? How long was the process of making this movie?
It was exceptionally long. We actually did it. I didn't know this at the time, but for industry standard, we were actually very quick. But it took about 6 months of travel. And then we did probably 3 months of post-production in terms of editing and getting everything put together. But overall, I would say it was essentially a year of my life between traveling, doing the editing, getting everything sorted out, and all the pre-production that goes into it before you even get on the road. So it was probably a year-long journey for me. But in industry standard, I've been told that if you do it in under 2 or 3 years, you're doing it exceptionally fast.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was gonna say is if you're doing a movie under a year, you're actually doing pretty dang good.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's such a long journey, it's a long project, it's something you really have to dedicate yourself to. So why did you decide to make this movie?
Right. So yeah, it all comes back down to that moment when I fell over that balcony and I had to reassess life, and I realized that if time is that finite, if things can end in an instant, then I don't really have the luxury of waiting to do it some other time, to wait till I'm retired. So if I'm going to do something, and what I always wanted to do was make a movie, I was going to have to do it right now. So then the question became, what kind of movie do you make? And, growing up watching movies like Star Wars and Indiana Jones, there were these fun adventure movies that taught you a little something about life and was a fun journey. Now, I didn't have the resources to go make another Star Wars or to make an Indiana Jones, but it did beg the question, how can I deliver that to people? How can I give something to people where it's fun, it's exciting, and it fills them with passion? And that's where the idea for the Abundance Factor came about, is to just help everyone find that in their lives, and hopefully I delivered that in some fashion to at least a few people.
Oh, I think you definitely have. Now, what were, if any, I'm assuming there probably were, but were there any particular challenges that you had to overcome while making this film?
There were so many challenges. I could write an entire book about it.
I'm sure.
I could write a Lord of the Rings trilogy length of things that went wrong during making this.
And that's some serious length if you can do a Lord of the Rings trilogy. Those
Yes.
are long books.
They are beast books, man. So yeah, I mean, there are so many different things when you set out to accomplish anything in life. For me, making this movie, you always have those personal demons that come up where you're like, am I qualified enough to do this? Maybe before I go into a big interview like Bob Proctor, you're nervous. You don't know how he's going to be. You feel intimidated. Then there's the external things that come up, like all of a sudden there's no financing to do the next shoot. All of a sudden this interview just got canceled. The list goes on and on of the problems that I faced during making this movie. And, I think it's funny because when you watch the movie, you would never know that. And so the thing to remember about all things in life is that the reality that's presented is not necessarily the reality that's true. So although the movie, The Abundance Factor, is about success and happiness, it doesn't mean that it was all successful and all happy the entire time that I made it. There was plenty of times where things went wrong and plenty of times where things didn't go my way. But the important thing was for me to just keep going and keep overcoming those roadblocks. And the thing I took away from it is when I look at other people's lives. You know, you always think like, oh, this T. Harv Eker guy, all these guys, their lives must be perfect every day, all day. But it makes you realize that no matter how far you get in life, how good your life looks from the outside, there are always problems, there are always obstacles, and everyone still faces them no matter how proficient you get at living life. And it's, I think, what you do when you face those obstacles that really separate the people that live a fulfilled life versus people who tend to live in scarcity.
Yeah, it's so easy to think that. It's so easy to think that everyone's lives are perfect, and not just celebrities, just, you know, everyone portrays only a certain percentage of their life through social media. So we go, oh man, they look at them, their life is perfect. And you're so right. I love that. Now throughout this movie, there's always times in making movies where maybe you didn't catch something on film, or maybe it didn't make the final cut. So what was your favorite part of this movie that wasn't actually in the movie?
That is an exceptionally good question, because I feel like there's probably 5 hours of stuff I would have loved to include in the movie, but obviously we couldn't shoot a 3.5-hour epic documentary. So
hey, we're talking about Lord of the Rings, right? We could do like, you could make a 3-parter, you know?
I should have done it, man. I could have had some like little hobbits in it and stuff too. I'm kind of short. I could have rocked the Hobbit.
Okay, there you go.
But yeah, I mean, there was so much that I wish could have been in the movie that wasn't in the movie. And I mean, even if you do the math on it, like with 21 interviews at 30 minutes, that's only like 3 or 4 minutes per person that you're getting in there. So there were tons of gems that were left out. And that's why we put together a little program that you can actually buy all of the extended interviews so you can see everything that I got to hear from these people.
That's awesome.
But I'm trying to think of one thing that was left out that really, really impacted me. I think if I had to pick one thing, in the movie it's in there, but we had to cut it down for length. Sonia Riccati shares her story of basically going through a divorce, losing her house, contemplating suicide. And she's in her bed and she's crying and she wants to just give up on life. She doesn't want to be there anymore. But instead of giving up, she tells herself that I'm not going to go through this for nothing. If I go through this, I know it's because there's something great, there's something powerful, there's something so beyond my imagination waiting for me just around the corner. So she turned the struggle of her life into an affirmation that there was going to be something better. And that really, really struck a chord with me, because I've went through plenty of things in my life where they're not the greatest situations, and you just let it eat you up on the inside and you beat yourself up over it. But instead of doing that, she showed me that you can use that as motivation. You can say, I'm not doing this struggle for nothing. I'm not going through this pain for nothing. If I'm going to go through this, that means there's going to be something better for me on the other side. And I just think it's a phenomenal way to look at life and to look at the challenges in life, because if you can turn struggle into something that fuels you rather than something that holds you back, then you've won the game. Like you have finally seen the world for what it is, and the world will be so much better for you every step of the way from then on out.
I love that. That's exactly what I'm all about. That's what this podcast is about. You know, focusing on the good is not just about having positive thoughts or thinking good things or pretending that everything is great all the time, because it's not. And if you go around thinking that, then you're going to be really unhappy. But it's really about taking the bad and figuring out how you're going to gain from it.
Yes, absolutely. And I think once you learn to do that, you've started to crack the code. You started to figure it out. So that was a big epiphany for me watching Sonia talk. And I hope if the viewers check out the movie, you can see a bit of that moment in there. And I hope that it impacts you guys the same way it impacted me.
That's awesome. I love that. Now, what kind of memorable or eye-opening experiences did you have while making the film?
The entire thing was fairly memorable. It was pretty awesome. I was traveling with 2 guys named Wayman and John. Wayman's actually an ex-rock star. He's
Nice.
from the band. Yeah, he's from the band Splendor. So anyone listening, if you Google the band Splendor, they had some big hits in the late 90s.
Nice.
So it was a really eclectic group of people. as I said, we traveled to like 7 different countries. We hung out in Japan. We went to Malaysia. We climbed in the Batu caves, and a monkey came and he stole my bag of peanuts.
That's
There
awesome.
was just every moment of the journey was so much fun. And, you know, it really was, for me, one of the most abundant times in my life, where it was an abundance of meeting new people and cultivating relationships. It was an abundance of traveling. It was an abundance of love and kindred spirits with all of us coming together, making this. It was just everything that I value in life, I got to experience in making that. So it would be difficult for me to pick one memorable experience because the whole thing was really, really life-changing for me.
Yeah. Well, talk about that a little bit. Like, what are the biggest things that you've learned from it? This is probably something that completely changed your life over this whole year. And so what are some of the biggest things that you learned personally that you took away from this experience?
Yes, there's absolutely, there's a lot to learn because if you've seen the movie, there's a lot of information being thrown at you. And as being the person who was sitting there in front of these people, actually listening to them one-on-one, there's so much to take away. But I think there's a few things that really, really impacted me the most. One thing Harv Eker said was that if you want to get rich in this life and if you want to make $1 million, then you have to try to help 1 million people. So in other words, the amount of money that you make is directly correlated to the amount of people that you can help. So if you solve a little problem that can help a few people, then you only stand to make a little bit of money. But if you can solve a massive problem or a big problem, then you can make a lot of money or a big amount of money. And it comes back to an idea that Peter Diamandis has since echoed. And he said, if you want to be a billionaire, figure out a way to help 1 billion people. And I just love that outlook because so many people, money has become just a game. It's all about taking and screwing people over or scamming people. You have these spammers, you have scammers on the internet. All kinds of people are trying to figure out these trickster ways of getting money from people. And I love coming at it from the position that you're trying to give value to people first. You're trying to help people. And then once you help a person, maybe they'll return that with some sort of gift on your end or some sort of reciprocity, whether that's their time or that's their money. And I think it's an exceptionally healthy way to look at life and to look at business.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because I think that the transparency of our world today because of the internet has made it so it just doesn't work anymore. You can be crooked and make money for a short period of time, but in the long run, it's just not going to help you. I love what Harv Eker said. He said something like, the only people who make money work at the mint, right? Something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
Yeah, and so money comes from other people, and you have to look at people like people and not just like dollar signs. So I love that too, especially coming from someone like him where maybe people would see him and think that he's just all about money, but really it comes down to it, he's all about people.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
That's cool. So I got a couple more questions about the movie. One is, how have audiences responded so far?
It's been one of the most magical experiences of my life having this movie come out, because there's not a day that goes by that I probably don't get 30, 40, 50, 60 positive glowing emails in my inbox or on Facebook or on Twitter where they're saying, dude, I was ready to give up on life. I had no idea what I was going to do. I saw your movie. I have a new path, and it's given me a refound hope for what I can achieve. Or I've had messages from people that said, I was on the brink of committing suicide. I felt like I had no options. I watched your film, and it totally pulled me out of that. I just had another woman that said her whole life she's wanted to write a book, but she never found the time, or she didn't feel like she could really do it. Then she watched my movie, saw what I did, and then took action on it, and she's currently in the process of writing that book. So I've heard so many amazing, amazing success stories that I can safely say that is the best part of this whole thing. It has made it all worth it because, like we talked about, it takes a year to make something like this, and you have no idea what it's going to do. Are people going to like it? Is anyone going to watch it? What's going to happen with it? And for it to come out and for me to get this much positive feedback from people all over the world, it really, really means the world to me.
That's amazing. That must feel incredible. How long ago did the movie come out?
So we did our initial test launch, which was in September of last year. So basically, we just wanted to gauge feedback, get some reviews for it, and make sure that we were on the right track. Since then, we kind of officially launched more this year, where we've done the advertising, we've done the promotion. We're hopefully going to take it to some film festivals and really do the push for it this year.
That's awesome. So how can someone watch the movie if they well, everyone listening, you shouldn't just say, well, maybe I'll watch it. Go watch this movie. You must. I command you. I'm doing the Jedi mind tricks. You must watch this movie. How can they watch it?
Yes. If anyone has been tricked by the Jedi mind control that Jake has put on you, go to www.theabundancefactormovie.com, and you can basically watch it for free for 5 days. So you just go there, you put your name and email address in, you click watch the movie free, and then you got 5 days to watch The Abundance Factor for free completely.
That's amazing. What a great gift to people. That is really incredible. Now, how can someone have more abundance in their life?
That's essentially the topic that we explored throughout the entire film. And so it's a big question to answer, but I'm glad that you asked it, because that is at the core of what the abundance factor is. It's about how do we live an abundant life. And for me, it comes down to a few really, really, really important things. And we touched on one briefly, and that is giving. And if you have something to give in this world, or even if you feel like you have nothing to give, then please, please give that to the world, because that makes the world such a better place to live. So whether you make music, share that with the world, give it to the world. If you're a writer, write something, give that to the world. If you have your time to give that to a person. If you have your money to give and to donate, then give that. Whatever you can give in this world, please, please give it, because it just creates this reciprocity where the universe will give you back everything that you give to it. So number one is give your gifts, give your time, give your love, give everything you can to the world, because I promise you it will come back. Secondly is this idea of gratitude, which is something I had always heard about growing up. You read these things and it's like, be grateful for what you have, but sometimes you don't quite know why you should be grateful. And when I was talking to Harv Eker, who's a Harvard happiness expert, he put it in really scientific terms that helped me to really understand the value of gratitude. And he essentially explained that your brain can only look at the world through the lens that you give it. So if you look at the world negatively, and if you're a pessimist, and if you are always looking at all the bad things that happen, then your brain actually starts to only filter life through that lens. So it'll only look out for the world for the bad things. So you're going to notice when you get cut off. You're going to notice when that clerk shortchanged you by $1. You're going to notice when your girlfriend or boyfriend says that rude thing to you. You're going to notice when that bad thing happens at work. And all your focus is going to be on these negative things. But you can retrain that in as little as 30 days. And this is all scientifically validated. He did all these experiments at Harvard. So all he did was have people think of 3 things in the past 24 hours that they're grateful for. So it could be something little like, I woke up today and my pillow was so soft it was amazing. Or, I went on this really amazing run and the sun was out and it was a cloud-free day and it was just this beautiful, beautiful sky, and I'm grateful for that. Or maybe, you had a great conversation with an old friend and you say, it was so great having that conversation. And what you do is you write down those 3 things and you write down all the details about those things. So if you saw the sky and you thought it was beautiful, write down all the details, the color blue it was, what the landscape was like, where you were, when you're talking to your friend, what color shirt was he wearing, what was he doing, what did you guys talk about? Write down all those details. And what you'll do is you'll actually train your brain to focus on details of positive things in your world. And if you do this for 30 days, after that 30 days, you'll actually keep looking at the world through that same positive filter. And all of a sudden, the world's going to become such a happier place because you've taught it to be grateful and to look for those little things that make you happy every day. So those, I think, are the 2 big things that I took away. So to recap, because I know I have a problem with rambling on and on.
No, it's wonderful. It's great. I love it.
So I would say,
keep going.
Yeah, I would say absolutely give your gift to the world. So whatever your gift is, however you can offer value to other people, do that. And then always remember to be grateful for what you have. because the more you look at what you have with appreciation, the more you're going to get of those things, both metaphorically and in a very literal scientific way. So give your gifts to the world and be grateful for what you have.
I love that. Actually, I asked the same 3 questions to every interview at the end, and in what you just said there, you answered 2 of them. One of them was, why do you think it's important to have a positive attitude? And that was obviously answered there. And the other one is, what do you think an everyday person can do to make the world around them a better place? Obviously, that is through giving their gifts. The third question is, there's a huge gap between someone's dream and achieving that dream. Most people know a lot of people know what they want, but they have no idea how to get there. What do you think the best things someone can do to reach those dreams?
Yes, excellent question, man. I think if you have a dream and it seems unattainable, what you have to do is figure out what the first thing you can do is. What's the smallest step you can take? And, I felt the exact same way. I had never made a movie before making The Abundance Factor. I had never interviewed anyone. I had never traveled outside of the continent of North America. So there were all these things that were going to be new experiences to me that I had never done. And if I would have looked at it like this big, giant Mount Everest thing, I'd be staring at the peak of it and I would say, there's no way I can climb that. There's no way I can overcome this. But I just did one thing at a time. So I was like, all right, if I'm going to make a movie, then I should probably learn how movies are made. So I went to film school. That was step 2. Then I realized that I was going to need funding. So then you acquire funding. Then you learn how to do an interview. And you just take it one step at a time. So if you have a dream in your life, and right now it looks like Mount Everest, and you're saying, oh my God, how am I ever going to climb that? Then you'll notice that when people climb Mount Everest, they don't just try to run up to the top of it on day 1. You make it to base camp 1. You get there, you settle down, you sleep. Next day, you pack up your bags and you try to get to base camp 2. And you take it step by step. So whatever your goal is, whatever your mission is, break it into little steps, bite-sized steps, and just do one thing a day that will get you closer to that thing, closer to that dream becoming a reality. And then before you know it, you'll hopefully be at the top of Mount Everest and you'll be there at your goal, living your dream life.
That's incredible. I love that. Thank you so much, Riley. It's been an honor to be with you. How can people connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm Riley Dayne, basically anywhere on the internet. So you can find me Facebook, Riley Dayne, Twitter @Riley Dayne, Instagram @Riley Dayne. And I always love hearing feedback from people all over the world. So feel free to message me, tweet at me, hit me up on Instagram, whatever you want. I would love to hear from you guys.
Awesome. And is there any last thoughts that you have that you want to share with the listeners of the Focus on the Good podcast?
It's something that we kind of touched on briefly when you said, how can an ordinary person essentially make the world a better place and help give their gifts? And it's something with all the negative things that have happened in the last few months, and I'm sure will probably continue to happen, with whether it's the terrorist attacks, these bombs are going off, these planes are getting hijacked, and the world can look like a negative place. But I feel like those few bad individuals can only put so much darkness into the universe. And if all of us shine our lights brighter than they have darkness, then those shadows cannot exist. So if you have something that you can give your light, give your love, give your gift to the world, then do it, because it makes this world a brighter place. And if we all come together, all 7 billion of us, and we give our gifts and we give our light and we make this place a big, bright, white beam of love and excitement and passion, then those tiny little specks of blackness that pop up all over the world will just be washed out. There'll be no place for them. So without a doubt, the last thing I would ask everyone to do is to give your gift, shine your light, and make this world a kick-ass place for everyone to live.
Oh, thank you so much for that. That is incredible. I love that. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can. I love that. Thank you so much. Riley, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Always, always, always remember to look for the good in the world, because what's wrong is always available, but so is what's right. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it. Please share it with those that can use it, and also rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. That helps us out tremendously. And remember, I choose to focus on the good, and I hope you will too.